So last but certainly not least, we have a great treat for you. Dr. Bruce Miller, my mentor, my teacher, the director of the UCSF Memory and Aging Center, the founding director of our Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. Dr. Miller is a Clausen Distinguished Professor in Neurology and Psychiatry. He has made seminal scientific contributions to our understanding of frontotemporal dementia. He's truly a master clinician. Any of you who have had a loved one or have been under Dr. Miller's care know that that is the gold standard for neurological care. And Dr. Miller is an inspirational leader and teacher. I first met him as a visiting medical student doing a rotation at UCSF. I felt like I was meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was going to show me the ways of the Force, and he lived up to that and more. And I think my story isn't unique. It's the story of many of us who came and contribute to the center that Dr. Miller has built. Dr. Miller is also a best-selling author now, and it's really been a pioneer in helping us to understand through some of these disorders how social cognition, how language forms in the normal brain and might be affected in different diseases, and also how, while some parts of the brain might be suffering from a disease, that can actually unlock previously untapped creative and artistic potential in people who are suffering from a dementia on the one hand, and on the other hand have a new creativity and artistic talent that blossoms in the setting of the disorder. And Dr. Miller is going to talk to us today about the social brain and AWOC. So please join me in greeting Dr. Miller.
Let me start. I'm going to make some thanks. Start with Gil, who's just been a tremendous leader of our Alzheimer's Center. For me, it's pretty hard keeping up with the young people, and everybody there is the young people. They're pretty amazing. So, people organized a meeting today around Johnny, Gil, Karen, did I not say Harley? Harley always is number one. Yeah, amazing. So thanks so much. Also, you inspire me, the people in the audience. I have known some of you since almost the beginnings of our center in 2000. And the book that I'll say a little bit about at the end of this is inspired by the caregivers, whose brains are quite extraordinary, and people afflicted by these diseases. So, my heart really goes out to you. You've changed me in really good ways. And just a couple people in the audience, I have to known a lot of you a long time, but none more than my friend Karen, who we knew at the University of Wisconsin. So it's really great to see Karen here. That, when I was in college was quite a long time ago. Yeah, she was taken in at age 7, so she's a lot younger than me. And Lou Reed here is from the Hillblum Foundation. He's a participant in our healthy aging cohort. Amazing man, and he has helped through the Hillblum Foundation support a lot of our efforts, particularly around healthy aging. But if I had a chance, I would thank each and every one of you. So I was going to speak today with Virginia, but she couldn't make it. But so you're going to have to hear me, and I'm going to say a little bit about what inspired the book that Virginia and I wrote together. Vanessa Carter does many things. She also reviewed this and tried to help us make it sensible and understandable for the public, so thank you. So I'm very interested in our evolution, and I read everything I can about it. It's pretty clear, there's something very different that happened on the planet about 40,000 years ago. We began to live together as a species in increasingly larger groups, and living in a large group requires really specialization of the brain. And all of you are masters at that social brain, that ability to understand others, connect to them, feel what they're feeling, treat them in an altruistic fashion. And so I think we always emphasize changes in language that happened. Indeed, they did simultaneously. But the thing that we often don't emphasize is the social and creative aspects of our human species that uniquely changed around 40,000 years ago. We have a story of suddenly elders taking care of grandchildren. People have talked about grandmother genes, genes that have evolved in our species so that we live old in a healthy way. I will argue there was an evolution in our social brain. I was just thinking after a very warm interaction with my dog this morning that we weren't the only ones who evolved, right? So there were wolves that interacted with us, but slowly dogs, and the ultimate evolution, I think, is the golden doodle. But they have an incredible social brain. Ask me more about that. At the same time, there were cave paintings, sculptures, music, and instruments. All of this happened condensed in an incredibly tiny period of time. And that's who we are. That is, the gift of humanity. And I thought a lot about creative brain as well. So no paintings, very little until about 100,000 years ago. And then all of a sudden, these magnificent paintings appearing in caves, sculptures, tattooing. This is maybe the finest painting of our ancient relatives. France, of course France, right? Culture of France, why not? Yeah. And this was Lascaux 15,000 years ago. These beautiful bison, 3 dimensions, watching them run, colors placed in a beautiful area. I've seen the Altamira caves, and that some human being crawled into that cave and did this. Had to do it. They were driven to be an artist. Isn't that just a story of humanity? And so many of you in your own specialties have that same drive to create something really magnificent. And so the social creative brain refers to an interconnected series of brain circuits that allow us to thrive as social, emotional, creative beings. I think this is the part of the brain that I really admire in humanity. There are other parts I don't as much. It governs empathy, relationships, moral beliefs, creativity, self-awareness, critical for personal and societal well-being. And we tend to think of ourselves as being, much more advanced than the people that lived 30, 40,000 years ago, but Picasso did. And, he wrote, and I think it really tells a story that after Lascaux, all art is decadent. So I think what he was saying is those early artists were just like us. They had the same capacities, the same drive, and this is the species that we have been connected to for quite a long time. Okay, so this is a little simple, but it's pretty true. And that is, we have 2 hemispheres. You want both of them working really well, but they do incredibly different things. So the left side is language-focused, logical, thinks in symbolic ways, is, I think, a little socially oblivious. And so you can be pretty socially intact with a lot of loss on the left side of the brain. Because that right hemisphere that doesn't talk, doesn't speak, is silent, is unbelievably intuitive, emotional, captures our empathy, our visual creativity, our social behavior. But we need them both. They both work together and help us communicate and connect as social beings. One of the things that I have just been more and more impressed with, and maybe it's because I'm moving into this age group in a very deep way, but emotional systems tend to be preserved in healthy aging. So almost everyone in this room, I believe, was inspired by an elder at one point in our lives. And that's because elders had features that were so unique. And I think this really reflects something that happens to the brain. And the story is that the circuits involved with emotion, understanding what other people feeling, dare I use the word wisdom, really does not disappear as we get older. It increases. And I think this is one of the reasons that protecting all of you, protecting the brains of elders is so critical for a society. I wouldn't be in medicine if it wasn't my grandparents, no doubt about it, and I'm sure each and every one of you has your own story about an elder. I've learned a lot, and that's the book that I wrote with Virginia, from all of you. And thinking about frontotemporal dementia, progressive aphasia, Alzheimer's disease. But it made me realize that there are very focal, specific parts of the brain that are involved with behavior, self-reflection, emotions, creativity. And when you lose those parts of the brain, it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with your will or anything else. This is just what happens when you lose those parts of the brain. You can lose empathy, fairness, language, creativity. And the degenerative diseases tell us a lot how the brain works, how it's organized, and also, I think, how to heal us and how to heal society. Work Virginia has done, Kate Rankin, Howie Rosen, has really taught me that there is an empathy circuit, a tiny circuit in the brain that is localized to the right anterior temporal lobe. Small area, we knew nothing about it until we started studying the frontotemporal dementias. And this area can look at, I saw a patient who lost this area yesterday in my clinic. It looks at faces, it knows what that face is feeling, it recognizes that face. It's really all about empathy. And this remarkable circuit is malleable. It can increase in size. Things associated with empathy can improve. And I think it's one of the circuits that we really forget about in society. Maybe the most important circuit that we have, even more important than language. Right side, not left side, very much right side. So relationships and aging impact social brain. The relationships of the group of people in this room, our cohort together, have strong social ties, improves health, fosters empathy, enhances emotional resilience. We know that people who are isolated and lonely do incredibly badly with a neurodegenerative disease. They progress incredibly rapidly. So these networks that we have, beginning with Chloe, our social work, and sustained by all of you, are unbelievably important for the future of anyone afflicted by a degenerative disease. All right, so maybe I won't talk about this, but I'm going to say a word or two about pro-social behavior. And what is more important than this for a society? Altruism, caring about the society, caring about grandchildren. And what we learned from frontotemporal dementia is that injury in a very specific circuit leads to disengagement, staring off into space, looking annoyed and fidgety when they're in a situation where they can help others. When they can help another person, unlike our healthy controls and our Alzheimer's patients, they don't lean forward in the chair, they don't help to look at an object, to try to help the experimenter who's in trouble in this paradigm. So we've learned that a very specific part of the brain, which is affected in frontotemporal dementia, but which is spared in Alzheimer's disease, maybe even enhanced, is part of the picture that we see as we interact with all of you. I think Virginia's story, a very important story. And then this is, I think, perhaps the most important part of the story altogether. And that is that these diseases don't affect the brain diffusely. When you lose function in one part of the brain, it increases the function in other parts. So we've written about artists. So we have seen a large number of people who were never artists before they developed a form of frontotemporal dementia with loss of language, in whom suddenly there was visual creativity, extraordinary paintings, some extraordinary paintings that are even now being written about in plays, in the case of our artist Ann Adams, who really became a master in the setting of language loss. So this is not only our patients, this is our caregivers. Think of what happens to all of you as caregivers as your brain enhances, as your empathy circuit upregulates. Think of the extraordinary things that go on in this dyadic interaction. And it shows us that even with degenerative disease, there is plasticity, and I would also say with that hope. So almost done. I just want to show one of the studies that one of our fellows, Adit Freeberg, did. And she looked at our artists who had frontotemporal dementia. And the punchline is even though they lost function in the left side of the brain, particularly the left anterior temporal lobe, the back of the brain was markedly increased in activity. And I think this is the challenge to all of us as we look after people. We have to find those critical areas that are preserved, that we can really improve. And my best guess is that 50% of our patients with progressive aphasia would have become artists if they were placed in the right environment. Because each and every one of them, the back of the brain has increased in activity. Okay. So how do we cultivate a healthy brain? First of all, we have to recognize that our social brain is really important. Build strong relationships, foster positive emotions like gratitude and compassion. Is there anything more beautiful than gratitude? Engage in awe-inspiring activities. Virginia Sturm has written about awe walks, where we think of the awe in our own lives and nature. It changes the brains of caregivers within 6 weeks. Extraordinary. So I think we need to think more and more about enhancing all of our social brains. And nature walks, in the case of Virginia's study, were incredibly important. Practice kindness and generosity. The Dalai Lama says, whenever possible, be kind. And then he says, it's always possible. So Virginia and I, in the last chapter of our book, have written a little bit about society. And some of you are teachers. And and I think teachers really know this, that in children in the classroom, yes, it's very important to teach language, spelling. I'm a really good speller, so I mentioned spelling. That was the only thing I did good in grade school. But anyways, promote analytical skills in the left brain, but also creative skills. And nothing more important in the relationships of children than their care for others. And one child who does not do this well creates enormous problems. So I think thinking more broadly in education about social brain, healthcare, we have to focus on the social brain circuits, reward, comment upon, speak in awe of caregivers, of patients with these illnesses who work together to bring out the best in their lives and the lives around them. And then I think thinking about neuroscience and the creative fields and inspiring people across the society about what we do in neuroscience and what you do in the course of caregiving. So we teach these values in our Global Brain Health Program and our BNTP program led by Howie. So in our leadership training, we talk about authenticity, fairness, openness, respect, courage, and empathy. We think about the brain circuits where this happens. And we think important about our healthcare workers, our physicians, how important those values are as we work with people in society. And this is Mysteries of the Social Brain. And we really, it's the story of all of you, the story that you have told us. Story about Anatomy of the Social Brain, Fairness, Empathy, Respect, Self-Awareness, Openness, Creativity, Cultivating the Social Brain. And this is the book. It's on Amazon. You can get it. And sorry for the self-promotion. I'm doing this for Virginia. So, anyways, thank you. And I think we'll have time for more discussion.